Four Midwest Guys presents Watchers of the MCU.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Four Midwest Guys Presents Watchers of the MCU. I'm your host, B. Willie, and with me today is my daughter, Gabriella.
Hi.
Obviously, to remind everybody, she wears a mask just to keep her face hidden, as I don't trust anybody on the internet as a father. So she will wear the mask the rest of the episode. Just in case you're wondering, she's not sick, just I don't trust anybody. And she really likes the podcast, so this is the compromise between overprotective father and daughter. Mr. Ankenbauer will not be with us. We tried to get our schedules linked up, didn't work, and he also had his second shot. The whole vaccination process, as you know, sometimes that can make you awfully tired and cranky and kind of sore and feeling and stuff like that. So we wish him best, and we wish him soon, real quick recovery here from us, and we miss you, B, and hope you get back with us real soon. And he'll be fully vaccinated too, so that's awesome. All right, so we fell behind in the whole week by week podcast thing of doing Falcon Winter Soldier, so we're going to do one giant wrap-up show today. So we'll be covering episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a catch-up. So you'll see this. So really there'll be 3 podcasts. You have the episode 1 podcast by itself, the episode 2 podcast by itself, and then this mega one here at the end, which will just be, again, episodes 3 through 6, which you can read there at the bottom of the screen in reviews. So just so everybody knows what's going on. All right, so with that said, Gabby, we've got a lot of work to do, so you ready to get started?
Sure. Not like I have a choice anymore, but you know.
Oh, like I forced you to do this.
No, you didn't. We're recording now, so I don't have a choice.
Oh, yeah, you're stuck now. Okay.
Yeah, I have no going back, bestie.
So let's get into episode 3, Power Broker. Something I was really excited for about this entire series was the return of Zemo. General Zemo from... last time we saw him was in Civil War. He was never a real high-profile bad guy. He just was out for pure revenge because Avengers Ultron, his whole country gets destroyed and his family dies. And he wants pure revenge against the Avengers. And he actually ends up turning Captain America and Iron Man against each other and splits up the Avengers. He's successful in his mission. He doesn't get them to kill each other necessarily, but he does break them up. And the amount of psychological damage he does in the planning and the methodical planning and the sacrifice that he's willing to do to get to this point is what I think made him a really good bad guy. And I wish we could have seen more even of that side of him in this series. But in this time he kind of plays the CI, if you will. It's in this buddy cop kind of drama. He's the criminal informant, the Dr. Lecter, if you will. Even when we first see him, he's behind the glass when he's talking to Bucky, and he even tries to reactivate Bucky's Winter Soldier. He starts saying all the words to him, and Bucky's like, "It's not going to work, pal." But still, he starts off sinister anyway. I just wish he had stayed that way a little longer, because I really like the methodical bad guy sometimes, especially when you got all these guys with superpowers and incredible powers, and it's something just as simple as messing with their heads that he's able to get to them. And I would like to see more of that Zemo, but we end up with this. In other words, this time around he's more of like he's the CI, if you will. Where he's in Lethal Weapon, he's a much better CI than they had in their show, and I can't remember the actor's name. But anyway, but he doesn't really play a whole lot of comedy though either, other than his dancing, which is they have a 12-hour of him just going, or whatever it was.
I don't know why.
It was huge though. It was a hit, and they called it the Zemo cut. Did you enjoy the Zemo cut?
Sure.
What did you think of Zemo?
Well, I have poor memory, so I don't remember Civil War that very much.
Okay.
So, I was like, who this man?
Yeah, didn't know.
Who this man?
Who this man? All right. Who dat?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about he and Zemo takes him to this. He says he knows where to start, and where they end up starting is a place called Madripoor, which apparently is kind of like it kind of has this feel of Singapore meets Hong Kong. It's this underworld sort of city that kind of operates on its own, kind of like a pirate city almost, just full of all kinds of. It's just a place for the underground, the criminal activity to thrive, pretty much. And of all people they find Sharon Carter, who we haven't seen since Civil War. And apparently she had never gotten a pardon, never signed the agreement, the Accords agreement, and has been on the run ever since she helped out Captain America's side, and she has been on the run ever since, and is now living in uptown Madripoor, and is a quote-unquote art dealer, and has real stolen art, and is throws these huge giant rave parties there as well, which is a vast 180 from the character we see in Civil War. Seems very by the book, very upstanding, holds herself accountable. She's related to Agent Carter, Captain America's love interest. So she, and was the first director of S.H.I.E.L.D. So she's got the blood relation, and she's a very upstanding person, but she seems to, in order to survive anyway, in Madripoor, she's kind of built up her own, underground criminal network. It seems. What do you think, Gabby, about this change from going from somebody who's really upstanding to, because of survival, takes on the more underground world, becomes a criminal?
Okay, so again, I don't know who this woman is. So I only know the side of
Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I only know the side that we saw her in Falcon Winter Soldier. Like, that's all I know. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Well, and she kind of plays on Sam's feelings too. She's, because she never got pardoned. He's like, well, I'll get you pardoned. I know people. We'll get you help us out this time. We'll take care of it. And so she gives him where this doctor is that they're looking for, who creates the serum. His name is Dr. Nagel, and his story is he's hired by the CIA using Isaiah, the guy in the Korea War, the Captain America of the Korean War, the African American Captain America, the first one, and how he was locked up and experimented on while they had these blood samples from him. Dr. Nagel was in the process of recreating the serum from them, and then Thanos comes along and goes and he gets snapped out, and then when he comes back 5 years later, there's no program. The CIA has disavowed it. And so he turns to the criminal underground because he's kind of obsessed with himself and the serum and the program, and he goes to the power broker, and the power broker sets him up to recreate the serum, and that's how the super soldier serum comes back into the world, so to speak, or at least his version of it. So this, and then obviously when Zemo gets there, we get in the scene, we see Zemo put his mask back on briefly, which, for you comic book nerds out there, which was purple, Gabby's favorite color. Did you dig the mask or no?
No, it was more magenta.
Do you think it was magenta? I thought it was purple. No?
You're colorblind.
You think I'm colorblind?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and then, of course, Zemo, once the doctor tells his whole story, knocks off the doctor without Sam and the Winter Soldier being able, knowing he had a gun or anything, and because he's obsessed, because Zemo, his whole thing in this world is to make sure that there are no super soldiers, that there are nobody with enhanced powers. He hates that. He hates anything to do with that. That's his whole job while he was in Hydra, was to stop their version of the Winter Soldier program. So that it's the same. His mission continues. That's why he's doing all this. That's why he's helping. And his obsession causes him to kill kill the Doc. And at the meantime, we go back to the Flag Smashers. And in this episode, they're being kind of painted as a Robin Hood for misplaced people. So when the snap happened, the country's like half the world's population disappeared. So imagine half of your population in your country just completely disappearing. And all of a sudden you don't have a workforce, and all of a sudden your economy starts falling apart. So they started they opened up all the borders and all the countries and all the world and all the immigrants and everything. Anybody who was misplaced was able to come in and get a job and start working back. Problem is, when they reversed the snap, then everybody came back. And now there's a problem because there's people misplaced because they came back from those who got snapped are back and people are already in their place. Some in most cases, and it's causing a big problem. And because of Carly's actions so far, that that they're causing the GRC to become more and more radical against her, is she's becoming more radical. And in fact, she takes the next step, and up to this point, she really hasn't hurt anybody. She's just stolen the super soldier serum from the power broker, and is kind of starting to make headway against the GRC using her powers and her group of freedom. You can either look at it depends on how you look at it, terrorists or freedom fighters, right? Depending on how you look at it in this case. So people are just wondering, so she just gets more and more radical. Carly decides to take it up a step. She goes from not hurting anybody and being kind of just stealing stuff and being peaceful, kind of a Robin Hood kind of thing, to actually this time she takes down and blows up an entire, with a car bomb, takes out an entire building full of tied up GRC troops, because the GRC has like a militant wing to it. So she's gone more radical. She's stepped over that line from this point on. So now she's no longer the Robin Hood, the good. She doesn't have, her hands are no longer clean. Like, she can't be looked at as a freedom fighter so much more as she can a terrorist now. She's really hurt her cause by doing this, don't you think? You think so?
Yeah. I mean, beforehand, that's legal. But afterhand, is that a word, afterhand?
Afterwards, after the fact.
Afterhand. Yeah, we're going to say afterhand.
That is so ghetto, Gab.
Afterhand, that's illegal, bestie. I don't,
All right, well, let's go afterhand, and let's talk about the last. I don't know if that works. Let's go and let's talk about what happens at the very end of this episode. So, Bucky starts noticing these little, I would call them
camera things.
They're little camera surveillance things, and he knows what they are, and he basically calls out, and who shows up at the end in an alleyway, he calls the person out. He knows, he's like, I know you're here, and it ends up being the head of the Wakanda Royal Guard, and that's where episode 3 ends. So that's the end of episode 3. Now we're going into episode 4, which is episode 4 is titled "The Whole World is Watching." So episode 4.
I thought that was 6.
Nope. We'll get to that in a minute. Or eventually.
I'm so confused.
We'll get to it. Don't worry.
Okay.
So the whole world is watching, and it's an appropriate title for what happens at the end of episode 4. We'll get to that. We're getting there. So we pick up right where we leave off in episode 3, and basically you got to remember that Bucky he's sympathetic to her, or even though he doesn't want them to take Zemo from him because he needs him to complete his mission, that he has, remember this, the Wakandans that clear his mind, right? That, when he's got the Winter Soldier, they end up putting him back in ice, and then they're able to start rehabilitating him from his mind and release him from the Winter Soldier brainwashing that he's been going through for the last 90 years.
Yes, brainwashing.
Yes. So,
not brainwashing.
Okay, brainwashing, whatever. Miss, whatever it is you said, what was it? Afterhand, yeah. That's terrible. You got no room to talk. So Bucky, remember, he owes Wakanda a lot. And basically he tries to negotiate. She really just tells him, you've got 8 hours. In 8 hours, we're going to come get Zemo, no matter where you're at in your mission. So make sure you get whatever information you need to get out of him. And then also in this episode, Zemo brings up a good point. Why he brings up about anybody who has powers. It's kind of philosophical argument he has with Sam and with Bucky. Anybody who has powers ends up with superior feelings, meaning that they feel like they're better than everybody else, and then that leads to other problems and leads to like what happened in Sokovia. Eventually, that's where he's going with it. Is this leads to this, and then eventually something even worse will happen because of everybody should be on an equal playing field as far as Zemo is concerned.
Yeah.
So, and then that's why it's a little bit reaffirmation why Zemo's doing what he's doing and why he's here, and why he's helping. And of course, the one exception they make to this whole rule is Steve Rogers, and then obviously Isaiah, but Zemo doesn't know about Isaiah either. But as Zemo says, not everybody is Steve Rogers, right? Like Steve Rogers is, you find somebody like that, it's rare, extremely rare, right? That has that moral code and center to them, like that, even despite powers. And then Carly goes to the funeral. We find out a little bit more background on Carly. Is she had like this mother figure, like she was like the head of an orphanage kind of thing for misplaced people, I guess, and she helped raise all these people, and she was one of them. And she ends up getting sick from the displacement because she's one of the displaced people, and ends up dying of a disease because she's in refugee camp after refugee camp. And it kind of explains where Carly's coming from and why she's doing what she's doing and why she feels so strongly. It's kind of like her backstory. So after the funeral, unfortunately, John Walker shows back up. Remember, John's been up to this point has been 3 or 4 steps behind Bucky and Sam the whole time because of
Zemo.
Well, because they have Zemo, but they know what they're doing. John doesn't really know what he's doing. John just wants to be. He wants to be the new Captain America. He thinks he is Captain America. He doesn't just want to be Steve Rogers. He wants to be better than Steve Rogers. And have that, be in control and be in command and work as one team, but he doesn't have that, and he's a guy that's always won throughout his life. We find out, remember he's been the captain of the football team. They were undefeated. He's got all these medals of honor. He's won every battle he's been in. He's pretty much won, but now in this Captain America suit, this whole time he keeps losing. He's always behind. He's always losing, and it's eating at him, and it's eating at his ego. So keep that in mind as we go forward in this episode. Anyway, so John wants to go in right away, take Carly, get out, but Sam's like he wants to talk to her. He thinks he can reason with her the whole time. But of course, the ego and the waiting, he doesn't wait the full 10 minutes. After maybe 4 or 5 minutes, he rushes in, creates havoc and chaos. Carly gets away, but of course Zemo's is there waiting for her and attacks her. She loses all the super soldier serums she has. Zemo's going around breaking them all, except for one that falls off into the corner, which of course John Walker finds of all people, and he takes it and puts it in his little his outfit or whatever. So let's see where else. Make sure I don't miss anything here. Okay, so but yeah, so Zemo destroys all the rest of it. So then the Wakandans show up to take Zemo, and John Walker's there in this penthouse, or Zemo's penthouse, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, the Wakandans don't have any patience for John, and they don't really give John any of the respect that he's looking for. And they just start kicking John and Battlestar's ass. And really, at first, it's just Bucky and Sam are just kind of watching and laughing. And they only get involved because at times to try to keep the Wakandans from killing them. And then it ends up in a big fight. But John Walker and Battlestar thoroughly get their butts kicked. Now remember, I just told you all this stuff that John is not used to losing, right? That John Walker is not used to losing. at all. He's always about everything he's done in his life. He's one of those guys that's just always been a winner. But he's dealing with the situations and things that are far more powerful than him that he can't handle. And he just took another hit to a huge ego. To his huge ego. In fact, there's a scene between him and Battlestar, and he's like, "Would you take the serum if you had it?" And Battlestar's, "Absolutely, I would take it." And they start, and sure enough, we'll see what happens with that as we go forward. And in the meantime, our friend Carly, who's not real bright, decides to threaten Sam's sister, which I thought, and in order to get Sam a message, I would have just left a message with his sister. I wouldn't have threatened his sister. I still think Sam would have got the message. But again, it shows how far she's willing to go to get her stuff done and how radical she's becoming. She's threatening people. She's killing people. She's becoming just as bad as the people she's fighting. That's the problem. I don't think she realizes it. But anyway, so of course, when this meeting happens, at this point, Falcon is in his full suit and comes to fight than to talk, but he does start talking to her, and of course, who shows up but John Walker with new enhanced power. So yeah, John Walker has taken the super serum soldier serum that he found.
Yay!
And is now bending pipes around people's necks and throwing people across the room.
Lovely.
And yeah. And it seems like, now remember, if you go back all the way back to Captain America, the first Avenger movie, the first Captain America movie, remember the guy who invented the serum said it makes good better and it makes bad worse. So if you have good traits, you get super strength, of course, you get all these abilities, but personality wise, if you have good morals, that gets better. If you don't, if you have any kind of problems, in John Walker's case, insecurities, paranoia, that gets worse. And sure enough, that's what happens with John here as we go forward. Carly, and then of course what happened? Of course, there's a big fight, another big fight scene with the Flag Smasher super soldiers against a now juiced up John Walker, a Battlestar, and Bucky and Sam. And of course, in this big battle, and it's a pretty big battle, Battlestar, still being human or not having any kind of special abilities or equipment, takes a nice hit from Carly, ends up hitting a pillar right in his neck, snaps his neck, he's dead. Of course, upon seeing this, John Walker is his best friend in the whole world, pretty much his entire life, I guess, and goes ballistic and goes after the first person he sees. It's not even Carly who killed him, it's this other Flag Smasher guy, and just goes crazy and ends up chasing him outside, ends up in a public square around a bunch of people, and of course everybody has cell phones these days and everything's out, and John literally just murders him with the Captain America shield just over and over and over again.
We don't need to know the details.
Well, anyway. But you end up with this guy's blood, guts, and brains all splattered over the Captain America shield at the bottom.
We don't need to know the details, Dad.
Well, it's symbolic, though, because now the shield has become tainted. That symbol of Captain America, of doing the right thing, all of that has now been tainted. Right?
Destroyed.
And yeah.
Been gone.
So, and that's where we leave. That's where episode 4 leaves off. So
the whole world is watching.
The whole world was watching. Episode 5, which is just simply called Truth. Bucky and Sam immediately, we find John Walker, and kind of right after this, he runs away into like a warehouse, and Bucky and Sam confront him and decide that they're going to take the shield from him.
Are you wearing shoes?
What?
This is off topic, but are you wearing shoes?
Yes.
Oh. I'm wearing socks.
That's great, Gabby. It has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but thanks for the comedic break. All right. Hopefully, there will be no more of that. So again, Sam, Bucky decide that obviously after this, John is no longer worthy of the shield. He's no longer worthy of being Captain America. They end up in a big fight between the three of them, in which Sam loses his wings, so he's no longer Falcon. He gets de-winged, and eventually they end up taking the shield back from John. Thank God. And then we switch from that scene right to John Walker back in Washington. He basically goes before a hearing, and he's not put in jail, but he is dishonorably discharged and is stripped of his ranks, and privileges of being Captain America. And they said if it was not for his previous service, he would have been in jail for what he did. And obviously he says, well, this is what you trained me to do. This is what you asked me to do. Walks out of the hearing, walks out on the hearing.
That hasn't ended.
And then and then enters a new character called Val. She has a really long name, which I won't even try. It's like 12 different names.
Valerie something.
Anyway, it's actually Valentina something. Anyway, but it is it's Louise Dreyfus from Seinfeld, plays her. If you may recognize her, obviously. I looked her up in the comics, or at least online in the comics. She's been called Miss Hydra before. She's been called other aliases, but I thought the Miss Hydra one obviously kind of stands out. So she's kind of like an evil, at least in the comics anyway. We don't know where they're going to go with her, obviously, in the MCU, but in the comics, I guess she's best described as kind of like an evil Samuel L. Jackson's character, Nick Fury, an evil Nick Fury. And she'll probably put her own Avenger team together or some other team of evil. Anyway, she ends up giving her card to John Walker and his wife and walks away. But she's obviously got interest in him because he's obviously now a super soldier. And he has powers.
Wasn't the card empty from my memory? The card didn't have anything on it?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. I forgot about that. Good call.
I have a big brain.
But I'm sure it's probably some tracking device or something. And then next thing we see is John going to the parents of his friend Battlestar, and this guy is just deteriorating, right? And he decides to lie to the parents, Battlestar's parents, and he said, the guy I killed was the one that killed Battlestar. That's not true. It was Carly the whole time that killed Battlestar. So he's obviously trying to lie and cover up and create his own version of what happened in order to justify what he did and why he did it. So he's actually lying on top of it. So you can see he just keeps sinking to a new low.
What if he didn't realize that it was Carly who killed Battlestar?
Oh, he knows.
He does?
Yes. Yeah.
But do they confirm that?
Yeah, I think so.
They do?
Because you see it's Carly that actually hits him, and he goes flying. Battlestar goes flying, hits that big pillar. The pillar cracks, and he just goes.
Yeah, but did Walker witness that?
Yeah, he was right there. So Carly just happens to get away, and he just decides to chase the first guy he sees and take his wrath out on that guy. I don't even know. I'm sure he had a name, but I'm not sure. He's just one of the Flag Smasher super soldiers. Anyway. Next thing we see is you got Zemo at the Sokovia Memorial, and he meets Bucky there, and he basically tries to tell Bucky, he said, there's no other way. She's not going to stop. You're going to have to kill Carly going forward. And Bucky, because Bucky's there to grab him and turn him in. But, of course, instead the Wakanda guards show up and kind of do that for him, as it were. And so he ends up getting taken away, and they say they're going to take him to the raft. And for those of you who don't remember, the raft is that if you go back to Civil War, is that in the middle of the ocean jail that kind of rises out of the water. So it's an underwater prison. It is where Zemo is being taken. Anyway, so we switch from that to Sam going to see Isaiah with the shield. And again, Isaiah won't even look. He was going to open the shield, and he was going to give Isaiah the shield. I was like, all right, well, then you have it. And Isaiah wouldn't even look at it. wouldn't have anything to do with it, because when he came back from his missions and he was abused, he was put in prison, and they experimented on him constantly because of all this obviously hard feelings from that, and being treated so poorly by his own country. He won't even acknowledge the shield. He wants nothing to do with it. So it just shows the dark side of even any country, of any kind of secret weapons program, right? That people are going to be used, and he was obviously used and mistreated horribly. So we go through all of that. So next thing you see is Sam decides to go home, back to his sister in Louisiana. It's kind of this feel-good moment. Bucky shows up. Sam calls in all of his family. It was like the family that helped everybody in the area. He called in all the favors with everybody. Everybody comes in. They start fixing up the boat. Kind of a good feeling, that call back to family, back to roots, back to what's good in the world, right? Even though everything's going to hell in a handbasket around them, at least they're there. Sam starts training with the shield for the first time. We see him throw it, catch it, trying to do flips with it, trying to learn how to use it. And we see Sam and Bucky kind of have like a heart-to-heart, and Bucky continues to reveal about Steve and the shield and all this, and Sam helps Bucky go, well, you need to just confront these people that are on your list instead of just going to lunch with them, and kind of, you have to tell them, you can't just do stuff. You have to go and actually sit down and do the hard part, and tell them what happened and why. And that's Bucky actually does that with that old Japanese fellow who lost his son that he killed. So and he ends up doing that. But it's kind of like this. This is where Bucky and Sam really kind of become friends, I guess. At this point, they are friends, but they're not frenemies, kind of thing. Here they kind of bond, so to speak. So it's kind of that good feeling moment in the series, right? The GRC, we switched to the GRC in the news, and because of all the flag smasher activities and all the terrorist activities that are increasing, they're going to take a vote and close the borders. So I guess what happened when everybody got snapped, when the snap happened, economies crashed, and they started letting refugees and people in to try to keep the countries up and stable and everything, and everybody was kind of working together trying to keep everything together. And then when everybody got unsnapped, now you've got, again, there's this problem of what do you do? So now what they're going to do is kick all the people back out of the countries and displace almost, they said 20,000 people, I think. Was it 20,000?
I don't know. That's what you were doing.
I think it was 20,000 from what I remember.
I fell asleep when you were writing this down. So.
But anyway, yeah, so, they're going to take this big vote and displace. That's the one thing Carly doesn't want. That's the worst thing that could happen. Then the next scene, which I kind of thought was happening, and I really didn't know if they'd have the balls to make Sharon Carter, who has this lineage of, from the hero department, on behind her, and they actually did make her bad. It turns out she's the power broker, and then she ends up helping the Flag Smashers hire the French terrorists from episode 1. That whole helicopter scene with Falcon and everything, and saving the soldier and the terrorist, the bad guy from that, the terrorist, I can't remember his name. Was it something with a B? Anyway, anyway, it'll come to me. They hire him back, and really he doesn't care. He's just helping the Flag Smashers because he wants to kill Sam for what he did to him. Yeah, and then we switch to good old our lovely John Walker, fake Captain America, making a fake Captain American shield, and he decides to put his own medals of honor on the back of it. And then we end. Episode 5 ends with the case that Bucky came with. He was carrying from Wakanda. Sam opens it and looks at it, and that's where episode 5 ends. Now we're moving into episode 6, which is titled "One World, One People," which is the Flag Smashers quote when they're trying to hype themselves up. That's their slogan: "One World, One People." Flag Smashers infiltrate the GRC headquarters. They prevent the vote, and they take hostages. Sharon Carter suddenly shows up to Sam. She's got like one of those cool little fake masks, like kind of like a Mission Impossible thing. Pulls it off, and she's there to quote unquote help. Yeah, right. But as far as Sam knows, that's what's going on. So they put the hostages, half the hostages in a helicopter. They put half the hostages in a armored car. And Sam shows up in his brand new Captain America suit, full with a brand new set of giant metal wings. So not only can Captain America fly, but he's got the shield, he's got the wings, he's got the jetpack, he's got everything he had before, except it seems a little bit more beefed up. It's a really cool looking Captain America suit, by the way. I love the kind of the stripe, the white that he's wearing, and he's got this lion, and he's got the star. It's pretty cool looking, in my opinion, with the goggles and everything. So you got a flying Captain America now, essentially. The one thing, he doesn't have super strength like Cap did, but he can fly. So it's kind of like
win-win.
It's kind of like Iron Man meets Captain America, and kind of in a strange sort of way, but better, in my opinion. So I thought it was pretty cool. Did you like the new suit, by the way?
Yeah. It's kind of like the color, like it's like basically the same design as the Falcon, but with Captain America colors.
Kind of, yeah, but it was more beefed up. And,
yeah.
And he had much bigger wings. I thought it was
I didn't pay attention.
I did. Did you see where he used the wings to save himself and that one guy from the debris? Like his shield. So in the first episode, we saw him make, with the old suit, he made a smaller shield, but this shield was completely encompassing. Like he put it all around his whole body.
I can picture it, so I think I saw it.
Yeah, which was cool. We found out he went underwater. The suit works underwater. So it's a much more jacked up version of the Falcon outfit he had. So just really cool. So kind of neat to see for sure. And then, of course, our fake Captain America shows up, John Walker. He's just simply there to kill Carly and the Flag Smashers. He has a minor fight with Bucky. And then finally, towards the end, as the hostages are in the van are dangling from the top of this building under construction, he kind of, like, he snaps out of it. Because he loses the shield, the fake shield, and once it falls or he throws it away, he kind of snaps out of it, and he actually becomes a hero again for briefly, and John actually pulls the van to safety. So there is still good in him.
Just not
to use a
lie.
Star Wars reference. It's just the paranoia becomes too much, and that's what takes over, and that's when he becomes more selfish, and that's. But when he snaps out of it, he's still a good guy. I mean, he is a 3-time Medal of Honor winner, as they said. So there is something good about the man. He's going to have these, but because of it, the serum makes good better and bad worse. He's always going to have this. I think he's going to be one of these guys that's always fighting with himself, literally.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see him at least have a redemption moment, I guess. We are almost done. So Sam fights off the terrorist in the helicopter. It's kind of cool, and he actually contacts somebody in there. Something like it's like he's got an AI system, almost like Iron Man did, and he's able to contact somebody inside that knows how to fly it, and he takes out the pilot while she takes over the helicopter. So it's kind of a different way of defeating the terrorists, so to speak. And then he gives then he ends up giving the big speech to the GRC on how you can't take this vote, you can't do this to these people, and he brings up he's like contradiction. I mean, I'm a black man in a Captain America suit, in this day and age, and he really does address a lot of. Well, there's a lot of issues going on right now, right? In this between that are out there, and it's really kind of addressing it, and they're very subtle, and it's done, in my opinion, it's done pretty well. And how he addresses that, and I'm not going to get into that because that's politics, and I don't want to get into real world politics. This is a Marvel podcast about superheroes and people who can fly and have magic hammers, and I like to keep it that way. So, but let's just say it's a very good speech, and you should watch it for yourself. And as far as I'm concerned, Then we get into like the aftermath of the big battle, the fallout, right? By the way, Carly dies in the arms of Sam. She's actually shot by Sharon, but that's another story. So we end up seeing John Walker's wife and Val together, and she's like, I wonder what's taking so long. She says, probably the helmet. And he comes out in a brand new suit. It's similar to what he had before, but it's black, and it's got it's very different coloring coordination from that, and Val goes, things are going to get kind of weird, and America's not going to need a Captain America so much as they're going to need a U.S. agent, which is who John Walker becomes in the comics. It's this sucky version of Captain America. So that's set in place. We see Bucky mail back the book. Remember, he's got the real red book with his list of people that he wants to rectify from being the Winter Soldier. He did something against. She mails it to that awesome therapist that he has, and she opens it up. All the lines are crossed off. He's good. And Bucky's putting the Winter Soldier finally behind him. And then we get to a cool after credit scene, which is there. So if you didn't know, there's a after credit scene after episode 6. So there is. It switches to a hearing again in Washington, and it's Sharon Carter standing up there, she's getting a public apology from the government representative, and he says, your old job's available if you want it back. We're terribly sorry for blah blah blah. You're pardoned. Would you like your old job back? And she goes, it would be my honor, sir. The only problem is she's the power broker. As she's walking out the steps, she's on the phone, and she's like, line up the buyers. Yeah, the super soldier serum may be gone, but we're going to have access to top secret equipment, advanced weapons. Line up the buyers. And that's where it ends. So we've set up, yes, the Flag Smashers are gone. They successfully defeat them, but they've set up this Val character. They've set up the U.S. agent under her, and we now have Sharon Carter out there as the power broker. So a lot of different, yes, they solved one, they haven't, but a lot of other problems have now broken off from this, and will be out there to be dealt with, or we'll see all this continue through phase 4, I'm sure, in other series, in other movies even, in phase 4 and 5 probably even.
There's a phase 5.
Oh yeah, they've already got phase 5 planned out. This is phase 4, and there's a phase 5.
There's going to be phase 6, isn't there?
I'm sure there will be. They're making way too much money right now. And honestly, they're telling good stories. I've enjoyed everything pretty much the MCU's put out almost. So overall, I'm just going to grade the series overall. I'm going to go ahead and give it a B+. I think it was a, not that I didn't enjoy WandaVision, I did. It was radically different. It was fresh from that perspective, and it was a good story they told there. But this was very much the traditional. It was a buddy cop drama, but it was a Marvel buddy cop drama, and it was more of a traditional action Marvel movie per se. I liked how they introduced, we get a new Captain America through Sam we get a fake Captain America out of it again with this Val character, which is an evil Nick Fury supposedly. We've got Sharon Carter out there now as a double agent, as the power broker. All kinds of really cool stuff has come out of this series, and also Bucky has healed himself, so Bucky can go on from, he no longer has to be just Bucky or the Winter Soldier, but maybe we'll see him become the White Wolf that everybody keeps talking about, and that's who that character becomes in the comics, supposedly. Again, I'm not a comic book reader. This is just what I read on the internet. All I get is what I see and what I've enjoyed so far, and I'm enjoying everything I get. So overall, very strong B+. I won't give it an A, but it's a B+ series overall. Gabby, what did you think of the series overall from an 11-year-old's perspective?
Well, I'm gonna change up what I told you.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it an A-.
Okay.
So I was thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So the last episode that hit different, and it was just I love the last episode. And there's like a there's a lot of fighting in it, which beautiful.
There was a lot of action in this series, yes.
Yeah. My only problem with it was only 6 episodes. It was a pretty short series.
It was.
Was it a mini series or are we getting a season 2?
They haven't said yet, but I think it's going to be, if there is another series, it's no longer Falcon and Winter Soldier, because Bucky's no longer the Winter Soldier. He's put all that behind him, and Sam is now Captain America. So, if there's going to be a sequel, it might be Captain America and the White Wolf, or the White Wolf and Captain America. That would be my guess. Title-wise, will there be a second one? Yeah, I think they could do another buddy cop kind of thing down the line somewhere, wherever it fits. I wouldn't mind it. But again, their personas have changed. They've grown, so to speak.
The episodes were pretty long, but it was only 6 episodes, and that's my only problem with it.
Yeah.
Like if it was like a couple more episodes, okay, you know what? Yeah, A+. Sure, why not?
You're used to at least 10 episodes and all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was perfect. I'll disagree with you a little bit. I think it was perfect length. It told the story it needed to. Didn't need any more than 6. Yeah, okay, Gabby, go ahead and shout out to your friends.
Okay, hello, Bestie Bree. Here is your shout out that you have asked for.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure her YouTube channel is Just a Queenie.
Okay, I didn't know you were going to plug that, but okay. All right. So,
you did plug.
Yeah. So anyway, but before we go, and you want to know, we're all over the place. Where can you find, if you like this podcast and you want to see more podcasts from 4 Midwest guys, more than just the Falcon Winter Soldiers, we have lots of other stuff that we've done. We've been doing this for years.
So many years.
You can see everything that we got going on. We've got, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube even, obviously, if you're watching us here. There's all kinds of places that you can find us. The best place to go, guys, though, is simply the website, right? And that's just good old www.4midwestguys.com. There you're going to see that everything is, you got all the shows here at the top, and then if you scroll down, if I can get it to work, for some reason it doesn't want to work today. Yeah, it doesn't want to scroll. Anyway, if you scroll down, you'll see each one of the episodes are listed in chronological order as they're released. There's also links on the side to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Podbean, onto all the different the Apple iTunes podcasts, Apple Podcasts now. This has been changed. Everything, all the links are there. Please follow, like, and subscribe, and get in touch with us. And you can also drop us an email, good old-fashioned email, and that's 4midwestguys@gmail.com. So there's plenty of ways. Please reach out to us. Any kind of feedback on the show, what you like, what you didn't like, maybe there's something that you really want us to cover, or there's something you want us to go more in depth on. We'll be more than happy to. And if we really like, if there's a question that you give us that you want us to answer on air, we'll make sure that your email makes it on air. And there's a voicemail line. It's down right now. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'm not going to put the number out today. But there is a voicemail line, and I will get that rectified hopefully by our next podcast. Yeah, I'll get it fixed. And be looking for our Bad Batch is coming up next with Star Wars Bad Batch review podcast. Hopefully it'll be out tomorrow. So be looking for that as well. So that's our show, though, for today. Gabby, thanks for joining us.
Be back for Clone Wars. Actually, wrong thing. Bad Batch.
Yeah, I was going to say. And I've been your host, B. Willie. Say, everybody be cool out there, and we will catch you next time.